Okay, team, welcome to this training. This is an interview with a mentor of mine named Dr. Matt James. Dr. Matt is a master NLP trainer, and he actually certified me and taught me NLP many moons ago. I think, Matt, we're dating myself, but I think it was 2018 when I went through Master Prac as a student of yours, and then trainer's training. And I think practitioner was even in like 2017 or earlier. So it's been a while. Yeah. But I am beyond grateful for the opportunity to have you here to share NLP with this audience and our students, because NLP is one of the greatest skills that I learned that has up-leveled my ability to create lasting and deep transformation in my clients' lives. I literally think back, Dr. Matt, to my coaching business before NLP and then after NLP. And there was that significant of a shift in the work that I was doing, and a lot of it is thanks to you. And I'm beyond grateful to our friend, who is my best friend who passed away a few years ago, Sean Stevenson, because he was a student of yours back in the day as well. You trained him, and he went on to be one of the best, coaches and speakers on the planet. And so it's just a true honor to have you here. And I just want to say thank you. Do you want to share a little bit about your background at all, just so people understand your journey a little bit, and then we can dive right into some NLP mastery training?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll keep it super simple, because I want to make sure we get into the content for sure. And I just want to thank you for having me on and doing the interview. I know we've been coordinating when to do it, and I love it. Absolutely love supporting you. The work that you're doing is absolutely amazing. Definitely one of the top graduates from our company. And you're right, Sean, an incredible human being. I got to know him well over a decade ago when he did his trainings. Long story short, my dad got into NLP, founded the company that I now own and run. I think he founded it back in 1982, so 41 years ago. Started off as business consulting, wanted to do business consulting, did an NLP training, and immediately shifted and got into teaching neuro-linguistic programming. As a kid, I got to do a fire walk with Tony Robbins when I was 11. I got certified as a master practitioner of NLP from the guy that invented it, Richard Bandler, when I was 15. And came on board with the company in 92. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and took over running it, and then took over ownership of it over 20 years ago. And my dad was an absolute pioneer in the field, invented a technique that is a game-changing technique. My dad passed away a couple of years ago, and just an absolute incredible individual, and a huge loss to the community and even to the teachings, but yet he dedicated his life to it. And so I kind of grew up with this stuff and have been practicing it. And I'm a doctor of integrative psychology and a multi-six-figure coach. I only work with 4 people at any given time. And the people that I'm working with have some incredible reach and opportunity to make a difference on this planet. And I do one-on-one coaching, a lot like what Peter does. I don't do group coaching, but I just focus in on one-on-one and applying NLP to that. And I'm also still the lead trainer for our company. So that's it. That's it in a nutshell. I mean, that keeps it simple.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm excited to dive in, and I just want to see, I'm curious, for those of you that are on here at Zoom with us live right now, how many of you have actually studied NLP? Have any of you been certified or studied NLP yet? Okay, Steve, it looks like looks into it. Okay, Steve, good to see you. And has anyone not yet studied NLP, but that's why you're here? You want to learn about NLP. You want to learn how to apply it. Yeah, awesome. Shelly, Todd, I love it. Oh gosh, I get so excited, Dr. Matt, because I'm seeing some of my current and even past students here. So this is awesome. Well, let's start by just kind of explaining what NLP is, and then why it's such an amazing tool to learn to create even better results, or help your clients, not create, we don't create it, but help our clients get even better results.
Yeah, so I consider myself old school NLP, meaning I learned it in the 80s when it was pretty new. My dad was one of the early master trainers. I think he's the second master trainer ever made by Richard Bandler. And what I mean by old school NLP is a lot of people who teach NLP now have kind of lost the essence of what NLP is. I hear that from a lot of students that come into our training. So NLP is really simple. Richard Bandler and John Grinder asked a powerful question. They asked a super powerful question. Why is it that certain people get results and other people don't? I know that seems like a simple question, but it's pretty deep. psychology. I'm a doctor of psychology, and I can say this with certainty. Psychology spent so long trying to figure out, okay, what is the ABC to solve depression? Like, let's find the secret formula to solve depression, to help someone overcome obesity, whatever it is. And the problem is that there's no one way to solve everything. If there was, we would have found it out by now. So Bandler and Grinder asked, like Peter Scott, why does he, after taking the classes, get results, and someone else who took the exact same classes don't get results? And so NLP is not a created set of tools and techniques. They are modeled from what successful people do. So, for example, one of the early people that was modeled to create NLP, her name is Virginia Satir. Considered to be one of the best marriage and family therapists ever. I mean, books have been written about her. I studied her, her work, and she wrote books. Bandler and Grinder were like, why don't other people who took the exact same class, maybe even sat right next to her with a similar background, why aren't they out there at that level? And it's because she thought a different way and communicated a different way. Neuro-linguistic programming. It's literally the study of how linguistics affects you from a neurological perspective. And they used the word programming because it was invented in the 70s, and computer programming had just come out, and they thought, let's utilize that word and go, okay, let's get into our own personal programming, and how do we then communicate effectively, help people overcome their programming. And that's NLP. I'm old school, and we teach 21st century NLP. So, for example, in our practitioner trainings, we now do meditation. Peter, when you came into the trainings, we were doing meditations every morning. And I remember I had someone say to me, NLP doesn't involve meditation. I'm like, I don't know, man. Every top CEO that I've looked at, they're doing mindfulness-based techniques. The bulk of them are meditating. And so NLP is an ever-evolving field of looking at what does it take to be successful now, and how do I bring that into my own life with what I'm doing? So I think that's the easiest way to describe NLP.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And that's something that not only helps you personally, right, as you study and master this, but also if you know how to make these shifts for yourself and you gain the skills to help facilitate that transformation in another, imagine the impact, the shift that could happen. Because I think back again to my coaching, Dr. Matt, before NLP. And this was before I was coaching coaches and doing business coaching. I was doing more kind of mindset and peak performance coaching, but it was all focused on the conscious mind. It was clarifying a vision. It was setting goals. It was taking action. And the problem was, though, that it didn't matter how clear the vision was or how great the goals were if there was baggage there. And I didn't feel like I had the skills before NLP to understand or help somebody release the negative emotions, the limiting beliefs, some of the baggage that leads to self-sabotage patterns. And I think that's the biggest breakthrough that I had with NLP.
Yeah, I would agree. And actually, psychology is now using the term programming. They're actually, in my cognitive psychology classes that I took, they talked about the fact that by the time we're 5, about 95% of our programming is now in there. And I remember one time I said that in an LA practitioner training. We were in Los Angeles, and a woman in the front row went, "Well, I'm screwed." And I'm like, "Why would you say that?" My first 5 years were horrific, she said. And I was like, okay, I appreciate that your first 5 years could have been horrific, amazing. You actually can get into the programming and change the programming, Peter, just like you, exactly like what you got to experience. There are techniques to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about some of those techniques, because I think that's what really a lot of the people here are wanting to learn. And I just, I want to acknowledge a few people. Fernando, I know, is here, who's a student of mine. And Fernando's been through, Dr. Matt, your practitioner, your master prac, and your trainer's training. So you've got some of your own students on here as well. Billy Rollman as well, a good friend of Sean Stevenson and myself. He's been through your training. So it's really cool. We've got an amazing community here already. And those are just the people that are on Zoom. There's a lot of other people joining in from the Facebook group that I can't see right now.
Hey, Fernando, good to see you.
But I wanted to, I think one question I have is, are there certain types of coaches that would benefit more from using NLP versus others? Like if you think about health coaches, life coaches, business coaches, there's all these different niches, right, that we serve as coaches. Is there one that would be more valuable? Or, could this help literally any coach or consultant in their own life and help them with working with their clients?
Because NLP is a study of excellence in communication, like how do you communicate more effectively? How do you use your language to uncover what the issue is? I mean, that's like a lot of what we do as coaches is a client's bringing us a problem and we got to figure out what programming it is. So, I mean, Peter, I mean, from that perspective, I'm going to say anyone could benefit from improving their communication skills. And having said that, you know, a person that may not need a client that may not need an NLP certified coach is someone who is already crushing it and they just need an accountability coach. And I say this from my heart as a coach. My partner, Christina, she was in real estate and she worked for Keller Williams. She, I think in 1 year sold 176 houses, which is what some people do their entire career. Helped to grow one of the largest real estate teams here in Houston. The Loken Group was the VP of listings. And a lot of what she did that she called coaching was working with top real estate agents and just keeping them accountable and giving them a formula. So in that instance, if you're a top producing agent, you may not need to let go of baggage. But the moment you have baggage, coaching someone with baggage is like trying to push someone through quicksand. Basically, we were talking at the trainers training, which Peter, you attended, I think. Yeah, I think you're right, back in 2018.
Yeah.
And we were talking with the evaluators, and one of them is a coach, just like you, Peter, and said, prior to coaching, prior to NLP, coaching was like this. You get on the call. Hey, you need to start working out this week. Okay, I'm going to do it. You get on the call the next week. Did you do it? No, I didn't. I kept eating the Twinkies, but I'm going to do it this week. And it's like, you're coaching baggage instead of coaching the person. So anybody that has baggage, NLP is going to help with that.
Love that. Now, for a holistic view of this, because that's really the first step of, or I believe the first step of the 4 requisites for change,
Yep.
right? And I'd love for you to share a little bit about that, because as I shared earlier, before NLP, I would focus on clarifying a vision and setting goals and offering accountability, but the baggage kept getting in the way. So can you kind of share what those 4 requisites or change are so that students understand it?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, so again, I want to remind you, NLP is modeled from what successful people do. So successful people navigate their path by using basically 4 requisites that you would need to create change. The first one is release baggage. If you have negative emotions, limiting beliefs, if you don't release that, then what happens is the baggage takes over at some point. Maybe you can override it for a little while, but eventually what happens is you kind of go back into the old pattern. Once you've let go of baggage, the second thing that you have to do is set a goal. You got to set an intention. Here's where I am. Here's where I want to be. And then the third thing is taking action, which is what most coaches focus in on first, rather than focusing in on the, releasing of baggage and the goal. The last thing you do is maintain focus, like reframing, having a positive mindset. And when I'm coaching my clients, I teach them these 4 things, and I talk about that it needs to be done in this order, and I apply it to physical health. If you apply this to physical health, it makes sense. If you feel like you're addicted to a food or a drink and you don't alter the programming, you're going to keep eating it. Maybe you can stop eating it for a little while, but it comes right back around. So once you let go of the baggage, you're still out of shape. Now you got to set a goal. What am I going to eat? What type of workout am I going to do based on the body type that I want? So then you do that, you set your goal, but you're still out of shape. You then got to get into the gym and actually take action and maintain your focus, because kind of like in the book, The Slight Edge, you got to keep showing up every day. And sometimes you don't see the progress. So you have to maintain a positive mindset at that point. Most people try to do it in reverse order. And that's what leads to failure. That's what leads to people not succeeding. And so the 4 requisites is how I coach individuals over the whole year that I'm working with them. And it's how I coach them in specific situations that come up. I apply first, is there baggage? Second, what's our intention? Third, what action do we take now that we have an intention? And fourth, how do we have a positive focus? So it really is it's a guiding approach to coaching and working with individuals.
Yeah. So that's the first step that I want all of you to take away, is that whether you're a health coach, a life coach, a relationship coach, a business coach, the first step, right, to facilitating transformation and change is to release that baggage, which are the limiting beliefs, the negative emotions, those things that basically get in the way, Dr. Matt, of separating somebody's desired behavior really from their actual behavior, right? If there's a separation there, that's really what it is. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that I got from NLP. And there's different techniques that I learned through you and through your team on how to do that. One of the things that we were talking about earlier before we went live is the importance of values, ensuring that somebody's values are aligned. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I think that's just such a critical skill to learn.
Yeah, so values and beliefs are probably the deepest level programming, and values are a deeper level programming than beliefs. So at our master practitioner training, we teach how do you actually elicit what a person's values are. More importantly than that, how do you clean up any, what I call, or what we call in NLP, a move away from, meaning a negative motivator? How do you get rid of that in the value? And here's, I think, the biggest game changer is how do you install a value? So values determine what you do with your time and how you evaluate the time that you have spent, meaning values drive your behavior. If you let go of your baggage and you did every goal-setting program on the planet, you did mine, Peter's, Tony Robbins, you name it, and you set a goal to be healthy, and you don't have a value for eating healthy food, you just don't do the behavior. In career, if you don't have a value for wealth, abundance, prosperity, or money, you're not going to exhibit behaviors to draw in and produce wealth. And so, I mean, like literally, values are game changers for coaches, being able to work with values and beliefs. That, for example, my client, hyper successful, I wrapped up with him last year, hyper successful commercial real estate broker, one of his top clients is Bank of America, and he was getting out of shape. And he didn't want to put his only child in a position of having to care for him the way he cared for his parents. And a month into coaching him, my phone goes off and it's a text message from him, but it's actually his daughter. And his daughter had taken a picture of him eating a salad and eating a tomato, and they were arguing. He's like, no, I like salads. She's like, you never liked salads. You thought tomatoes were evil. And she like literally said, can I get your contact information? I want to coach with you because my father, his entire life, only ate horrible food. And just changing one value, moving nutrition into his top 5, he exhibited the behaviors right away. And so values, and you know this, Peter, I mean, you did Master Prac, values, you install a value of wealth for someone who hasn't had it. They not only feel wealthier, but they begin to exhibit the behaviors to build their wealth.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that you taught me was in Master Prac is where I learned how to do what you call breakthrough sessions.
Yep.
And Fernando, I know you've got the skills on how to do a breakthrough session. Billy, you do as well. For some of you, that's I'd love for you, Dr. Matt, to take a moment to talk about that, because when I gained that skill on how to do the intervention, how to do a breakthrough session, the impact was, I mean, beyond my wildest imagination. And that was just something that I didn't know before. And it's a great skill to learn, but it's also a great way to up-level the value that you offer as a coach, but also what you're charging. Like I remember increasing my prices drastically after becoming a certified master practitioner in NLP, because I gained the skill through you and your team. So can you share a little bit? I know I didn't prep you for this, but what a breakthrough session is and why it would be so important as a tool to offer in a coach's tool belt.
Yeah, of course. And like I shared with you when we were talking before, like this can be totally fluid, and you totally. And I got good rapport, so we can pretty much go down any rabbit hole you want to, for sure. Cool. Yeah. So this idea comes from cognitive psychology, that if a person actually knew what the problem was, they would begin to solve it. Like the fact that it's in the unconscious, that the deeper issue is in the unconscious, that we're not aware of what it is. We're not aware of what the actual baggage is, and therefore we don't do anything to solve it because it's out of our conscious awareness. From a neurological perspective, the conscious mind, which is what people attempt to coach to usually, has access to the frontal lobe and can handle 40 nerve impulses per second, 40. The unconscious mind has access to the rest of the brain, and the rest of the brain does about 4 million nerve impulses per second. So it's like literally, please forgive me, 40 million. It's 40 million, not 4 million.
Ooh.
So it's a 1 to 1 million ratio. In the book Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, he talks about the fact that every second we get 2 million bits of information bombarding us, and our conscious minds only pick up 126 of those 2 million bits, meaning so much of what's going on is out of our conscious awareness. So the breakthrough session was modeled over the past 40 years from the most successful coaches that have come through our program, clinicians, the work that I do, and we improve it every single year. We work on getting it better and better. And it's a 7-hour approach to helping dig up what the hidden deeper issue is, and then using all of the tools and techniques of NLP that people have learned from the prac and the master prac to get rid of the baggage, which basically takes that first requisite for change and clears out all of the baggage that a person has. And I think for people like Peter, like for you, when you went through this already as a successful coach, it just helped you to be able to dig up the deeper baggage.
100%. Yeah. Because I was very good at kind of doing the coaching and accountability on the surface level, on the conscious mind, right? If you imagine an iceberg, right, 10% is above the water, 90% is below it. This is even more so. 1% is above the water, the conscious mind, 99% is below it, the unconscious.
Yeah.
Right. So to learn how to do that. And the way that you taught me how to do that was in a pretty rigorous way, which was incredible. Like, I would do a breakthrough session with a client in person over like a 8 to 12 hour period in one day. And sometimes I was split up, across multiple days, but it created the space to go super deep and to build an incredible amount of safety and rapport for pulling up some of these things that are in their unconscious that they weren't even consciously aware of. And values is one of the pieces of the entire breakthrough session. It's just one small piece of one of the techniques that you teach in terms of doing the intervention and helping people have the breakthrough.
And you bring up a really important point, and I know you and I right now are talking about some of the things that would be taught in the class that we wouldn't be able to teach here.
Yeah.
But can we talk about rapport for just a second?
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a coaching program where people who've done Master Prac can go through and learn how to coach, kind of like what you do. I'm very, very similar, I'm sure, based on all the trainings that you've taken. Yeah. And literally last night, I taught the webinar on how to create a safe space for a client and just NLP-based rapport. There was a study done in 2006, published in a peer-reviewed journal. For those of you who are clinicians or that have a research background, that means that the study that was done is valid from a psychological perspective. And using NLP-based rapport, they were able to measure an increase in trust in a sales setting and a higher willingness to refer. That's huge for you as a coach. That is huge, because I don't know about you, Peter, my number one source of new business as a coach is referrals. It's not the people that come to the trainings. My number one source is referrals. And so, I mean, I have free YouTube videos out there. You can read any decent book on how to establish rapport using NLP at no cost. I mean, and as a coach, that's critical. If you don't have rapport with your client, they're not going to open up. They're not going to share what's going on. We use the terms in NLP matching and mirroring. And matching and mirroring is simple. Like, Peter, if you raise your right hand, I'm doing this, it's like I'm matching. Yeah. And then if I do this, please forgive me, this is matching because I'm matching my right hand, and I'm facing you because I was looking at us on the camera.
That's right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But this is actually mirroring because it's my hand up and his. And so in person, I think you all get that, but it goes deeper than that. It's common interests. It's matching their tone of voice, their speed of processing, how quickly are they an internal processor? Are they external? It's all these little nuances that when you get better and better at it, you can actually improve how much trust your clients have with you, therefore creating a safe space where exactly what you were saying, Peter, you create a safe space and a person's able to go deeper in the breakthrough session and dig up what is the hidden baggage that they have.
Yeah, I think about, so I've got a couple students here on this interview. One of them, and I want to remain confidentiality if they prefer, but one of them helps women safely leave toxic relationships.
Wow.
Imagine how much rapport and trust and safety does that client need to feel to open up about that with their coach, right? I have another client who helped couples restore trust after infidelity.
Yep.
Right. I've got another client who helps child loss survivors, parents who've lost a kid, process and release their grief, kind of move from grief to peace. Like, these are very sensitive subjects. Right. And so, to your point, Dr. Matt, rapport is such a critical skill to not only help facilitate transformation, because trust is required, right, with that client, but also for all of you that are marketing your coaching business. Think about all the noise online today. Look at Facebook and Instagram and YouTube over the last 5 or 10 years. This industry has exploded, and it's a good thing, right? It means there's a lot of demand, but it also means there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of noise. And there's also a lot of hype, which, Dr. Matt, we see all the time, right? Of like the over promises, the under delivery. So the more that you can instill rapport in your actual content, your videos on YouTube, your podcasts, your Facebook Lives, the pieces of content that you create, the more trust is built with your audience. And if there's a higher know, like, and trust factor, there's more likelihood that they're going to book a call with you to, buy your course and eventually get the value of working with you. And that's a skill that I learned from you. I mean, there's benefits that coaches face, not just from their own life, right, with NLP and helping their clients, but also from a sales and a marketing perspective. You get great skills in establishing that connection and establishing that rapport.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I love what you said about how much noise is out there. It doesn't take anything to become a coach. There's no, I know that there are certifications like what we do, like what Peter does. I know that there are, and anybody out there can read a book on coaching and call themselves whatever they want, a master coach, a business coach, whatever label. There's no standard across the board. I know that there are organizations like ours that have set standards, but yet more and more people just jump into coaching. I literally was listening to a conversation. My son is 24, and 2 of his friends at his birthday party were like, "Oh yeah, we graduated. I think I'm going to just start coaching people." And I kind of looked over and I went, just nicely, I was like, "Have you taken any trainings on it?" And they're like, no, I'm just, right. You just get on a call with them and talk to them. Right. I'm like, oh shit. This is literally the mindset is, I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to start talking to people.
Yeah.
For sure. The problem with that is you and I know, Peter, the problem with that is that it really puts a stigma out there on coaches where if they're promising the sky and you're promising the same thing, the only difference is you actually can deliver. There's so much noise, and you got to be able to separate yourself out from that. And a lot of that has to do with your tools and techniques, for sure.
Yeah. And that's actually why I went to learn from you, Dr. Matt, because I'll never forget Sean and I, Sean was a catalyst to help me launch my coaching business. And for those of you that don't know, Sean was a best friend of mine, a student of Dr. Matt's, who passed away a few years ago, but he was one of the best speakers, authors, coaches, therapists on the planet, in my opinion. You can Google him, Dr. Sean Stevenson, and check him out. And I remember a few years into my coaching business, he saw my business grow. But he's the one who kind of said, listen, I see that you're learning to market, which is great. I see that you're getting better at sales and you're getting clients. He's like, but I haven't seen you really develop the skills you need to wow your clients. And it was true. I got some training, but it wasn't the in-depth training that I got through you. And so, because I think I started my coaching around 2014. It wasn't really until 2017 or 18 that I went through practitioner training. And so had I done that over again, I would have started with NLP and learned that skill first, not only to improve the skills that I had, but just my own level of certainty. I think that many coaches, when they get into this, have the imposter syndrome, right? And it's not many coaches, many of us humans go through life sometimes having that. And so the way that you gain more confidence is by developing the skills that you need to really facilitate lasting transformation. So,
Sure.
just wanted to share that. I want to open this up for any of you that have questions specifically around NLP. So think about any questions that you have. I'll have Dr. Matt share in a moment. If any of you want to learn how to develop these skills through him and his organization, I'll have him share in a moment how to do that, because there's some upcoming trainings that I think would benefit all of you. But before I do that, I have an image that I would love to take a moment on, Dr. Matt, and have you walk through, because this image, when you taught this, completely changed my paradigm around the mind, the relation between the conscious and the unconscious, and then how to create transformation. So I'm just going to share my screen. Can you see this if I share this?
I can. Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to walk them through kind of this, because I think this is a perfect image that depicts the power of the unconscious mind.
Yeah, this image right here is called the NLP model of communication. And here's the crazy thing, Peter. People ask me all the time, well, NLP's been around since the 70s, and the way like I talk about it, the way you talk about it, you make it sound so great. How come more people don't know about it? And actually, this image right here, my son just graduated from University of San Diego with a degree in business and marketing. And one of the last classes that he took during COVID was on Zoom, and it was a leadership class, and they were teaching this, Peter. And so he direct messaged the professor and goes, this is NLP. And the professor goes, no. NLP is that weird, crazy woo-woo shit. This is how people internalize things. And as a leader, you need to understand this. And then they went over 5 other things: matching and mirroring, sensory acuity, all of it came from NLP. So it's being taught in universities. Some people have just walked away from the label. Anyway, this is called the NLP model of communication. And so you have the external events that are occurring, and your clients, those of you who are actively coaching people, a powerful understanding of how the mind works gets you to be a better coach, because you realize that the events that are occurring outside of you, you delete, distort, and generalize. That's what it says right there, the filters. You delete a ton of information. I mean, you're going from the 2 million bits of information down to 126. It's filtered through time, space, matter, and energy. It's filtered through your language, through memories, decisions. Let's just talk about that for a perspective. Yeah. If you have memories, and you shared, Peter, that you are guiding people that are helping individuals that have gone through abuse, that have gone through infidelity, a person who has been cheated on is going to look at a situation differently than someone who hasn't. They're going to see a behavior and possibly assign a meaning to it and shift it. So as a coach, I have to hold that empathy, that space of, this is real for you, and it's not reality, right? It's the idea that perception is interpretation. So the external event is filtered through all of these things that we have in the unconscious and creates an internal representation. Psychology has been looking at internal representation since the 30s. A guy named Alfred Korzybski wrote some of the first work on it. Stanford University in the 70s did studies on this. The internal representation is your internal reality of what's going on outside, plus your emotional state and how you hold your physiology. All 3 of these things come together to produce a person's behavior. So one of the ways of kind of hammering this home that I do at the practitioner trainings is I say, how many of you think the economy is going great? And hands will go up. How many of you think the economy is not doing so great? More hands will go up. And then I'll go, and how many of you aren't really sure? You don't pay attention, hands go up. I'm like, cool. I then say, how many of you know someone that has lost money in a bad economy? Not a trick question. Everybody's hand goes up. I'm like, how many of you know someone that's made money in a good economy? Hands go up. I said, how many of you know someone who's lost money in a good economy? Hands go up. And everyone knows where I'm going at this point. How many of you know someone that's made money in a bad economy? Hands go up. Everyone's laughing at this point. And I go, how many of you know people that blame the economy for their state of wealth? And then all the hands go up, and I go, well, NLP has taught me, and studying the mind has taught me, that if one person can make wealth in a good economy or bad economy, we should model what they're doing. What's going on in their mind? That internal representation is different, and they're not blaming the world outside. They're taking responsibility for their actions. And that's what this whole thing is. It's a foundation for understanding how the unconscious mind works.
I love that example. It makes me think, Dr. Matt, because when I started my career, I actually worked in investment banking of all things. It was 2007. And if you remember the great financial crisis of 2008, I started at the peak of the market, right? We had the most deal flow you could ever imagine.
Wow.
We were doing mergers and acquisitions. And 12 months later, 80% of my firm in Chicago was laid off.
Wow.
And I remember being a 22, 23-year-old, having that significant emotional event in my life that created fear and anxiety and terror around the economy, around business. And I remember years afterwards, literally this became a filter. It became a filter that was so strong that I wouldn't see positive things in the economy. I would only see bad things.
Right.
And yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, of how one event, if not reflected on, can filter our entire life.
It will.
Right? Better or for worse. Yep. So very, very powerful. And again, this obviously all leads to somebody's behavior.
Yeah, and the behavior, the only way you can truly shift someone's behavior is either by changing the internal representation, the state, or the physiology. Now, behavioral psychology, their idea, their mindset was, let's just change the physiology and we'll change the behavior, and it doesn't last. State, you can go to a motivational training, get pumped up and change your behavior for a short amount of time, but you just go right back to doing it. All of the research and what NLP focuses heavily on is the internal representation. That's where the programming is. The programming is in the internal representation. And by shifting that, you're able to shift someone's behavior, and it's long-term.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, team, give me a thumbs up if you're loving this as much as I am. Now, I want to respect all of your time, because I know some of you have specific questions. If you do, please type them in. For those of you that want to actually really learn this skill, get trained on this skill, Dr. Matt, I can't recommend you and your team more than like anything. And so if somebody wants to dive deeper and learn some of the trainings, whether it's practitioner, master prac trainers training, where should they go to start?
I appreciate that very much. Go to NLP.com. NLP.com. We have NLP.com as our main website. And you can also go to drmatt.com, drmatt.com. And there's lots of free resources on there. I think I have over 400 articles that are categorized, linked to my YouTube channel, where there are hundreds of free videos that would help any coach out. Obviously, on a video, on a blog post, it's difficult to take it to a depth, but that's a great starting point. We're in San Diego next week. We're in San Jose the week after that, and I think in October we're doing Denver, Chicago, and also I think Las Vegas. I think we're doing, and then we wrap up the year in Orange County and Phoenix, and those might be flipped. I can't remember.
Okay. If any of you live in those markets, I highly recommend going to a live in-person training with Dr. Matt and his team. Because yes, you can learn some of the theory online, but there's nothing more powerful than being in the immersion of that event. I mean, I remember, I don't know how much it's changed, Dr. Matt, but practitioner was 4 days, 10 hours a day. Like really a lot of content. And I know some of our students have been through that. Some actually just went through that, I think last week or 2 weeks ago in Phoenix. And it was really affordable. Like there's some NLP trainings out there that are, $7,000, $10,000, $15,000. What's the, just so people know, what's the price and the investment for practitioner?
I know that it's under $400. The company runs various specials. And I get people that ask me all the time, what's the catch?
Yeah.
The training used to, when Sean Stevenson did the training with me, it was a $4,000 training. And we spent, of the 7 days, we spent 4 days on NLP. And so it's the same value for the NLP side of it. And I woke up one day and I realized two things. One, people need the tools and techniques. And number two, a lot of what you learn at prac has become more mainstream. Whereas before, when I did it in the 80s, it was considered to be like mind-blowing advanced techniques. And so many people come in already knowing about mindfulness-based practices. They're already, well-read on books like, The Slight Edge, Atomic Habits. They're coming in already with a base of knowledge.
Yeah.
So we switched it. We call it a scholarship model, meaning we're covering the other $3,600 and you guys get to have it as a much more reasonable entry point to really empower all of you. That's the mission of our company, to empower the planet. And Peter, I don't know if you know this or not, COVID changed a lot of things for people, and I was slow to jump on teaching them during Zoom.
Yeah.
But we, at the end of the year, we're doing one virtual, and it's a 3-camera shoot. So it's not just me staring at a dot for 10 hours a day. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
But we bring in a camera crew. We do a 3-camera shoot. The angles change. You get to go into breakout rooms. So we actually do a virtual prac now. And please forgive me, I got to take a look at my phone just to double check the date. I don't usually pick up the phone while I'm teaching.
Yeah, share those dates, because there's some people in Australia, New Zealand on this call, all over the world. So if they can't make it live, they can do the online.
Yeah, December 7th through the 10th is our online, and the live training that goes the exact same time is in Phoenix. So we're live in Phoenix with a camera crew there, and we've gotten incredible feedback. I don't have the resources to build a $9 million Zoom studio like Tony Robbins. So,
and I don't think you need that to deliver real value, but I love that you're doing that. And there's a couple questions here that popped up from members, so I want to ask those. Sherry asked, how does NLP work compare to her hypnotherapist training?
So actually, a lot of NLP was modeled from hypnotherapy. One of the things that the early contributors of NLP asked Richard Bandler is, are you attempting to do what people do in hypnosis? Are you attempting to do that without a formal trance induction? And the answer is yes. NLP taps into the unconscious mind in a very similar way to hypnosis without any formal trance induction. So for example, there's a technique that you learn called submodality belief change. One of my students, his name is Dr. Taka Endo. He was a struggling internist at an addictions clinic. Fernando actually has met Dr. Taka. And Fernando has been at trainings where he's attended and taught at. And Dr. Taka, I met him in Miami, and he was a struggling internist at a national addictions clinic. And he came up to me, and as a doctor, I said to him, the practitioner training is not for dealing with addictions. That's more advanced. I said, and you're a doctor. So on the break, come talk to me. There's a technique you learn at prac called submodality belief change, where you change the internal representation of a person's belief. I said, Taka, why don't you go back to the drug addicts that you're working with who are on heroin, PCP, alcohol, cocaine, every major drug you can think of, and change their belief that they're addicted.
Whoa.
About a year later, he was given a national award from the National Addictions Clinic as the intern of the year, because every single person he worked with, every single one, got off of their drugs. Every single one of them. He got results that textbooks say are impossible because he went in and changed the programming. Can you do that with hypnosis? I'm also a doctor of clinical hypnotherapy. I have 2 doctorate degrees. The answer is yes, you can, and it doesn't have the level of precision. So NLP is taking what you can do with hypnosis and up-leveling the precision of it. So for example, you can do a hypnotic induction and give a person a series of suggestions about their beliefs. And yeah, I've read the studies as a doctor of clinical hypnotherapy. I love hypnosis. And the level of precision is different with NLP. That's this way I'd look at it. And I still do hypnosis. Hypnosis is the #1 approach to helping people quit smoking. It's more powerful than the patch, the nicotine gum. I teach a class every other year, a real business model class where people learn how to help others quit smoking. And hypnosis is the best tool for that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Couple more questions. Mahendiran, and forgive me if I mispronounce your name, he asked for your personal website, not NLP.com. What's your personal one?
Dr. Matt, DrMatt.com.
Perfect. drmatt.com. And then Kasha asked a question. She said, are any of these courses accredited by the ICF?
Okay, so our courses, the last time I checked, we are not able to get accreditation from ICF because they have certain things that we would need to put into the practitioner training that don't apply to prac. Our courses are accredited by the Association for Integrative Psychology, and our graduates can utilize the courses that they've taken and sit for certification with, it's either IAC or ICF. We've worked with one of them. And at the end of the day, the only purpose for ICF, IAC, or AIP, who we go through, is to set standards. It's to set standards. And the problem that I had, and I love ICF and I love IAC, I love the work that they're doing. The problem is they have a specific curriculum that has nothing to do with NLP, and I teach NLP. And we've been around for 41 years. So our reputation, we were founded a lot earlier than the two of them. And so, yeah. And I have a lot of graduates from ICF programs and IAC programs that come to take NLP, like you, Peter, to improve their skills as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's my thoughts around certifications, because I think that, I view a coach's qualification as binary. Either they're qualified to help somebody or they're not, like 0 or 1. And a certificate, like having the letters at the end of the name, doesn't necessarily make you qualified. It's having the skills to really facilitate your client's, transformation. And so, I think that's my thinking of, like, I've never really had a client ask me if I'm certified by ICF or any other thing. They just want to know that I can help them get the result.
Well, Peter, let's talk about that from a sales perspective, because you know me, I love sales and I love business. Okay, so unless you are in an industry where the industry has aligned with ICF, the business specifically, and they only accept ICF coaches, the average individual that's out there who wants a coach and a qualified coach, they don't know what ICF, AIP, IAC, NLP, they don't know what any of those things stand for. And so I remember one time we were at a training, I was talking about our coaching program, and there was a woman there and they're like, hey, if this program is not ICF certified, none of you should take it. And I looked at everyone in the circle, and this was at my training, and I go, hey, hold on just a second. Are any of you coaches? And they went, no. And I'm like, have you ever heard of ICF? And they're like, no. So if I told you it's ICF approved, does that add any value to you wanting to work with me? And they went, no, what's ICF? And I looked at the coach and I went, within coaching, ICF, IAC, our organization, that's important. To your client, it's not going to make a huge difference. It's not a selling point. And so I want to separate those two things out. The whole purpose for ICF is for us to maintain standards, which I love. Absolutely love that.
Love that.
And from a selling perspective, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever unless you are in a very specific industry and the corporation has aligned with one of these organizations.
Yeah, 100%. What's most important, right, is not only that your clients get incredible results, but that the world knows about it, right? Notice how Dr. Matt's been able to share really specific examples of big changes and big results with his students. That's important as a coach, right? That's at the end of the day, that's proof that what you're teaching is incredibly valuable. So for those of you, I know, if you're a student of mine, you know this, we talk about doing case study interviews with clients to really highlight the success stories, but put that in your marketing, put that on your webinars, put that in your emails, celebrate those success stories, because that's how people are going to feel that you can deliver what you're promising, for sure.
Keller Williams has a coaching division. What helped Keller Williams to become one of the largest real estate companies on the planet is they have a coaching division, and their top coaches are called transformational coaches, and they have to come to our master prac to become a transformational coach. And so, I mean, like an organization like Keller Williams doesn't care about ICF or IAC, but there's another industry that does. And so you got to look at what's your target market. And if your target market isn't to become a transformational coach for Keller Williams, then it doesn't matter who you do your NLP with. That's like one example, I think, piggybacking on what you said, Peter. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. If you all have a couple more minutes, I want to answer the remaining questions that I see here. And Dr. Matt, are you good on time?
Oh, good. I'm good on time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. So, one question is, can you please share an NLP technique which we can apply for our day-to-day life for better productivity, or an anchoring technique?
I would love to. It's anchoring. It's anchoring. that whole Pavlovian response anchoring, man. Just yesterday, I was talking with my client about this. And so I've gotten to work with professional athletes. One of the people that I worked with one-on-one, his name is Chucky, won a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers, NFL. I'm going to be working with him one-on-one, coaching him. I've already worked with him, going to do another round with him. And he got my dad's recording when he was, I think, in high school, and read an NLP book. And literally he just took anchoring, and just anchoring alone. Anchoring is creating a trigger that evokes a specific response. And so for working out, I have an anchor. It's a piece of music. I turn that music on and I'm triggered right away. I start lacing up my shoes. I have a second piece of music that plays and I'm beginning my warm up. And if I'm like, I was kind of crunched for time, Peter, I just got done teaching all of the summer trainings, and I have and I want to be here 100%. I'm like, I want to get my workout in. I'm like, fuck it. I just turn the music on and it's an anchor. And so what people in professional terminology call a routine is just an anchor. As a coach, it is so important to establish your anchors. One of the things that I say to my students is your routine is directly correlated to your results. If you look at top performing athletes, presenters, coaches, the more routine they are, the more successful they are. Tom Brady, whether you like him or don't, most successful quarterback, he has more Super Bowl rings personally than the top two teams that are tied for the most Super Bowls. He has more personally than teams. And his routine was 365 days out of the year. He was always football. So I tell my clients the level of routine that you want. So what are simple anchors? My desk right here is set up for webinar mode. So the moment I sat down at it, it puts me in that state. Music for working out, some catchphrase that you say to yourself before you're about to do something big, whatever it is, and you build that in, you layer it in. And within a matter of days, even possibly one day, if you do it sufficiently, then you can establish that powerful anchor. On my YouTube channel, there's a video, I think it's a 1-hour YouTube video that I did. It's my most watched video that's on anchoring. It'll teach you how to do anchors. And as a coach, that will benefit you tremendously.
Love that. I'm getting chills because I'm anchoring myself right now. I'm touching my knuckle, which is what I learned from you at practitioner training. Fernando's smiling right now, and it's literally like getting me all motivated. So very cool. Very, very cool. There's Kasha has a question, is which NLP techniques can be used for acrophobia, which is fear of heights?
Yeah, that's going to be MER, mental and emotional release, a technique that was invented by my father. At the end of every practitioner training, we do a demonstration of someone from the audience who has a phobia, comes up and releases it doing MER. Mental and emotional release is taught at the master practitioner level. I have written a book on it. The book that I wrote is titled Mental and Emotional Release. The publishing company wouldn't let me put the advanced techniques in there because of liability concerns about, working with someone who has a phobia. At this point, we have clinical research to validate that MER works. We have academic research and thousands of case studies at this point. And it is a game-changing technique that goes in and releases the negative emotion, the limiting belief, and completely knocks it out. So that would be, my answer for that. The fast phobia model that was invented in the 80s does not work as well because it doesn't get the root. MER gets the root.
I just have to share this, Dr. Matt, because I did a breakthrough session with a client in Australia. It was virtual on Zoom, and she had, I forget the exact term, but it was a fear of open spaces, like a phobia. She was so afraid to go outside that she hadn't been on a date night with her husband in like 7 years, like something crazy, and or not crazy, just intense. Using a mental and emotional release help her release that anxiety. And I remember her sharing, we did like a follow-up 2 weeks or 30 days later, and she had gone out, she used to climb, and she went out to a rock climbing gym for the first time in like 7 years. So really, really incredible work. I highly recommend any of you, like it's probably on your website. I don't know if it's on NLP.com, but I'm sure on drmatt.com. Where can they get your book, Mental and Emotional Release, or some of your other books?
On Amazon. The 5 books that I published are on Amazon. You can just go right to Amazon. I think if you just type in Dr. Matt James, I think the page comes up. And Peter, I also want to make sure, because, my database, we're going to get the recording of this. How can my students connect up with you? Obviously, Fernando and a couple people already have. So
yeah, thank you. We help coaches launch and scale their coaching business. So we teach them the marketing, lead gen, sales side of things. Fernando's a student of mine. Some of your other students are students of mine. The easiest place is actually going to our private Facebook group. We've got a private Facebook group called 6-Figure Coach Secrets. And I share tons of free training in there. So that's a really great community of successful coaches that are all sharing secrets with each other on how to grow their coaching business. And then my website is designafearlesslife.com. So if anyone wants to connect with me there, we have a ton of free trainings and resources on there. So Dr. Matt, thank you for asking that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, oh, Fernando, go ahead. You had a question? Yeah, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Dr. Matt, Peter used all your techniques to help us to grow. This is the perfect match that you can do. All your clients, he used all your techniques. Everything is applied to the bone. So yes.
I love it. Peter and I mean, we got great rapport.
I'm mind blown for the tenacity and the specificity. The language make me go to him. His language make me go to him.
Yeah. And again, thank you, Fernando. I learned that from Dr. Matt, from you, Dr. Matt. So, guys, if you're on the fence, I highly encourage you to go at least start with picking up some of Dr. Matt's books on the website. Go to a practitioner event, whether you can do it live or virtual. It will be a game changer for you. In fact, Dr. Matt was kind enough to invite me to volunteer, if the dates work out, at the Master Prac in San Diego later this year. So Dr. Matt, if I can be there and some of these students go to practitioner, then they go to Master Prac, then we get to spend like a week or two together. So that would be amazing. And I'm such a big believer in coaching. I think it's the most powerful force of transformation on earth. I think people are needing it and seeking it out now more than ever. And as we said, I think there's sadly some coaches out there that don't have the skills to really facilitate that transformation. And so if you're here, I know that you're committed to mastering your craft. And so continue to learn from Dr. Matt, from myself, from others. Commit to mastery, commit to being the best in the world. You will benefit from it. Your clients will benefit from it. Your families will. And Dr. Matt, I just want to say thank you again for doing this interview.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I really enjoyed it. Appreciate it so much, Peter. And I love the work that you're doing. So good.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, team. If you have any questions, reach out to me directly, but we will see you in the Facebook group. And thank you for being on the training. Okay.
Aloha.
Bye.